Before you begin to create a form in Survey123, it is important to think about some ideas related to the design of your survey. In the next parts of this video, let's briefly review some basic points about survey design. It is very important to have a clear survey goal. For example, this goal is too broad and would be difficult to get specific questions and answers. This survey goal is better as it has more of a focus on the topic of livelihoods. However, the best surveys will have a clear goal, such as this final goal that we will use in the case study focused on food security. Another reason it is important to have a clear survey goal is to keep your survey short. You want to limit the number of questions on your survey so that you will get more responses, as a survey will take less time to complete. Think about a time when you've been asked to fill out a survey and you didn't want to respond to all the questions because there were too many questions for you to answer. Another important point to keep in mind is to focus on creating close-ended questions. For example, this question is an open-ended question. The person would have to write the answer in, thus taking more time to answer and do analysis. By comparison, this question is limited to 4 choices the survey respondent can select, making it easier to process the selected answers. A very important aspect of survey design is to avoid leading questions. For example, in this question, the word friendly will lead the surveyed respondent to think that the people being surveyed were in fact friendly. They may not agree with this. By contrast, this question has been worded to be more neutral, whether or not the NGO staff were helpful or not helpful. Thus, carefully consider the wording of your questions to avoid leading questions. Related to biased questions, make sure to use balanced answer choices. For example, these answer choices lean more towards a helpful response, but do not capture a negative response. By contrast, these answer choices allow the survey respondent to select a variety of balanced choices, ranging from helpful to very unhelpful. Another point to keep in mind is to use single topic questions. For example, this question is asking about the quality of food and support, making it difficult to decide what exactly is being asked. By contrast, a revised version of this question is simply asking for information on the quality of support, a single topic focused question that is easier to answer. Let's next review the actual questions we will use for building a form in Survey123. This first question is an example of what is known as a single choice question and is derived from an actual COVID-19 food security survey that was developed in the United States. The next type of question we'll use on our survey is a very common question type, known as a single choice with a rule, and works as follows. If a respondent selects choice 2, 3, or 4 on this question, they will then be prompted for a new question based on the response that they picked. Again, if they picked either choice 2, 3, or 4. This in turn leads to a new question based on the previous response. You'll find that this is a very common technique used in surveys to get follow-up information on a survey response choice. Finally, I'll show you how to add a map-based question. This is a very common and basic technique that you can use to determine where the survey responder was answering the question. This is also important as by using a map-based question, you can collect geographic information that can tie into your other GIS tools such as ArcGIS Pro. Go to the Survey123 website and click the Sign In button. Enter your ArcGIS Online organizational URL. Click the New Survey button to begin creating your survey. Enter the name of your survey, some tags to identify your survey inside your organization, and a summary of the survey for finding out more information among other surveys in your organization. We will now begin entering questions into our survey based on the case study you learned about earlier in this video. We'll first start with a single choice question. To add the question, select single choice among the different kinds of questions you can add. Then proceed with entering the question label, a hint, choices, and other things. Notice how when you enter the question's label, it'll start to appear in the design screen. Use the hint box to tell your survey responders how they should fill out this question. Next, proceed with entering the choices for your question. Note that you can click the plus button to add more choices depending on the structure of your question. You can also adjust the appearance of your question and make a validation that the question is required on your survey. Note that when you check the "This is a required question" box, a little red star will appear next to your question indicating it is a required question. Once you're satisfied with your question and its answers, hit the Save button. You can then preview the look of your survey by clicking the Preview button. Notice on the right, you can view how the survey looks in a desktop computer, on a phone, or on a tablet computer. Note that this design preview is actually quite important. Most people who will be responding to your survey will likely be responding using their phones. Thus, make sure that the design of your survey is effective in terms of how it will be displayed on a phone. I'll next show you how to add a question that will be a single choice question with a rule. To start, we'll add a new single choice question. And based on the case study previously discussed in the video, we will enter the question label, hint, and choices. As always, save your work frequently. We'll next enter the question that will be displayed as a rule that when one of these three choices from question 2 is selected, this new question will then appear. To do that, we'll follow a very similar procedure. In this case, we're going to add a multiple choice question and use a similar workflow for entering the contents of this question. Note that in a multiple choice question, you also get some additional options. We'll make this a required question, and we're going to set the minimum and maximum selected item count. This means that respondents must, at a minimum, make one choice and a maximum of 5, or the number of options available. And as always, save your work. Now, to establish the rule between question 2 and question 2a, we'll go back to question 2, click on it, and we'll click on the Set Rule button. And what we'll do here, if this option from question 2 is selected, question 2a should then be displayed on the form. We'll follow this procedure for the other options we want to establish for the rule. Note that when making this change on question 2, you can see the arrow that's pointing to the rule indicating that question 2 will go to question what the form calls 3, and vice versa, that the incoming rule from question 2 is related to question 2a. Save your work, and then hit preview to see how the single choice with the rule and related question works in action. As I said earlier, it's often helpful to look at the preview on a phone, as that's how most of your survey respondents will be taking the survey. So if we look here, we see that right now only question 2 is displaying. Clicking the first choice makes no difference. However, because of the rule, when I click on the second choice, we see that the other question appear. Make sure to always check every component of your survey to make sure it's working as you're expecting it to. Finally, we'll add one more question to show some of the other capabilities of designing a form in Survey123. In this case, we'll add a map to allow the survey responders to indicate where they are located. We'll make this an optional question for privacy reasons. Click the Add button, find Map amongst the choices, and enter your question, label, and hint. For a map question, you can also make some choices in terms of the display of the map and the map extent. In this case, I'm going to set the map to use OpenStreetMap, and I will set the initial extent to be on the Zatari refugee camp. Note too that I can change the display order of questions. When I added the map question, it put it in between the previous two questions. To fix this, I'll click on question 2A, where it'll turn into a blue box, hold my left button down, and drag it up, and notice how it switches places with the map. I'll save my work, and I'll do a preview. Notice how the map is now displaying in the phone interface centered on the study area of interest, in this case Zatari Camp. Step 3, Publish Form. Once you've completed the design of your survey, you will next publish your form so that it can be shared with your survey respondents. To publish your survey, first click the Publish button located at the bottom right. After successfully publishing your survey, you will then want to make sure that it can be shared with your survey respondents. To do that, click the Collaborate button and make note of the following information. This is a link to open the survey in a web browser. If you want the survey to be available to people outside of your ArcGIS online organization, it is important that you check Everyone. Let's do a quick demonstration of what it looks like if you do not check the Everyone button. To demonstrate this, I'm going to open a completely different web browser. First, I'll copy the link, and I'm opening a completely different web browser. And when I paste the survey link into that web browser, I'm being prompted with a login to my ArcGIS online organization. This is because the survey has not been shared publicly. To fix this problem, check Everyone Public under Who Can Submit to this survey. You can also make adjustments as to only allowing new records, updating records, and so forth. When I make this change, and I copy the survey URL again, put it into a different web browser. Now I can see my live survey because I've made the sharing settings to public. Step 4, collect data. If you are going to administer a survey remotely, meaning you are not going to have survey respondents fill out forms with survey takers, use the URL of your survey along with the settings to public and distribute this URL using whatever mechanisms you use to access your survey respondents, such as email, texting, WhatsApp messages, and so forth. Step 5, data analysis. Once you have received responses to your survey, you can then begin to analyze the data you've collected. You have several options in this regard. First, you can click on the Analyze button that will show you summaries of your responses and allow you to filter your questions and look at results. In this case, we have bar charts showing us the count of responses to question 1, 2, and the related question. You can print these graphics out to make quick reports. Another option you have available to you is to export the data out of Survey123 to do analysis in other software. To do this, click the Data button Notice in this view, because we used a map-based question, we can see results that were entered in our survey area, and we also get a table of results here. Click on the button Export to export this data out in various formats. For example, if you want to do data analysis using Microsoft Excel, click Excel. And you can begin to do data analysis using perhaps a more familiar tool such as Excel. Note that you also get some basic information about each record submitted, such as a global identifier, when the record was created, and a unique identifier. You can also export this data into formats that can read directly into ArcGIS Pro, such as a shapefile or file geodatabase. In this example, I'm downloading a shapefile of the data that has been zipped up, so I'll unzip it. And I'll bring this data into ArcGIS Pro. And here I can begin to see points collected from the survey that can help me with spatial analysis of the data responses received. By combining Survey123 with ArcGIS Pro, you have a very powerful set of tools for designing surveys, collecting data, and then doing spatial and other visual analysis on the data collected. I next want to give you a brief introduction to Survey123 Connect for ArcGIS. This is a more advanced topic, but I think you'll find that if you start designing more surveys Survey123 Connect will open up a lot more options for you in terms of the design of your survey, flexibility, and a lot of other options. Survey123 Connect is a desktop tool. A key thing about Survey123 Connect for ArcGIS is that it allows you to edit your Survey123 forms using the XLS form standard. The XLS form standard is an international standard that uses Microsoft Excel spreadsheets for the design of forms. This open standard allows the forms to be used in a variety of tools that can read the XLS form standard, such as Survey123 and also Kobo Toolbox. A link to the XLS form standard is provided in the video comments below. To begin using Survey123 Connect, log into your ArcGIS online account. And after logging in, you will see all of the surveys that you created. Earlier in this video, I showed you how to create a survey form using the web designing tool, and that form is available to me here inside of Survey123 Connect. I'll download the form onto my local computer. And double-click on the form to begin editing. Here I see a preview of the form. The real power of Survey123 Connect comes from the ability to edit the form using Microsoft Excel. To begin that, I will open the XLS form spreadsheet. Here I see my form as an XLS form standard. You might remember some of these things from the web form, but here we see them now as columns inside of a spreadsheet. We see the survey questions. We see the list of choices associated with each question and other various settings associated with both your form and the XLS form standard. As this is an introductory video, I won't go into every single detail about the XLS form standard. However, there is one thing I'd like to show you, which is how you can do multiple language support inside of an XLS form. In this example, we will make it so that the form provides questions and options in both English and Arabic. Currently, the form is only in English. To start adding Arabic, follow these steps. Scroll over and find column that says Label Language 1. Change the word Language 1 to the characters you would like to use. In this case, we will make it Arabic. We can now begin to put alternative displays in other languages based on the label, the Arabic label. For example, question 1, which we see in English, we'll put the Arabic translation into this column. We can repeat the same general process for labels and also for hints. Once you've made changes to the form, save the form, go back to the Survey123 Connect window, and update the survey form in the display. Notice now, once you've updated the form, you have a ribbon button that will allow you to switch the survey between the default language and whatever language has been specified, in this case Arabic. If you're satisfied with the changes made in your form, you can then upload your revised form using the Publish button. You can then double check that your form is working correctly by reloading the original form that you published. Notice now in the updated form, you have an option for Arabic because of the changes made in Survey123 Connect on the desktop. Use Survey123 Connect to unlock the power of the XLS form standard and to create more engaging and complicated forms that can meet your survey needs.